Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining again for another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just saying hello in the YouTube chat and reminding people to ask questions. Feel free at any time to ask questions about anything or any topic, but today we are going to primarily discuss web spam and the web spam update. So please join us as we do that, because it's going to be probably 90% a TED rant. And I know that's one of Clint's favorite style of shows because he tends to laugh a lot at those and poke the bear to see how far he can push me over the edge.
What?
So we'll see how far off the rails I can go this time.
I see Clint is just very supportive. That's all I've ever seen him.
Oh, yeah. He's always supportive, but I do know he likes a good TED rant. So with that, we'll try to get through the boilerplate quickly here. So we don't have Carolyn, so maybe we'll come back to that later. So what happened on the show yesterday?
A bunch of different topics, and a lot of people actually came and asked questions. So there was no specific, like last week with indexing. This week we didn't really have a narrowed down topic. It was a nice cornucopia discussion.
Excellent. I noticed that in our chat there was a lot of inquiry on how to find your show. That seems like the complex thing. What is the canonical way to find your show and subscribe?
I mean, just go to YouTube and search for SEO this week. The channel is Digital Ear, but it shows under the brand. So
yeah, and I think that's what's causing the confusion is people do a search and they see 18 different things and they don't know which one to click.
Yeah. Just go to the channel Digital Ear or search for SEO this week in Google, and then you should either end up on the SEO this week website or the YouTube channel. Either one, you're fine.
There you have it, folks. And please do subscribe. We do count on your enthusiasm to keep up our motivation to crank out content for you, because this is a labor of love and a community service. It's a way to give back. It does not really pay for bills. But we do love interacting with you and hearing your success stories and your field observations. And we love sharing our best secrets and our theories. And so, help keep it alive. All right. So I have a number of disclaimers on today's rant. So first of all, this episode, we're talking about Google. When we talk about Google, people swear up a storm. Don't know why it is. Well, actually, I do know why it is, but people swear up a storm when we talk about Google. Also, we're talking about spam. So some of the things we find are a bit risque in spam. So it's not necessarily going to be the thing you want on your big 40-inch monitor in your shared workspace at work. So if you are in that context and you don't want something potentially embarrassing to show up on your monitor while you're wearing headphones and have your co-workers think poorly of you, maybe you can back out now and watch the replay at home. So I'm just warning you. And if you are overly sensitive to bad words and adult topics and talking about such things, then this is probably not the episode for you. I apologize in advance. I don't mean to offend you, but in this show, we are going to talk about these things. So this is that episode. So this is your chance to click away. Second disclaimer, some of the sites we point out in this show will harm your computer. They'll steal your information. They'll ransom off your files. They will affect other computers related to you. They will scour your contact forms, and they will infect your family and friends and coworkers and wreck your clients and destroy your business. do not visit these websites. Don't be dumb. Even if you have antivirus software, that is not enough to protect you from the things that Google is serving up in Google. You know, just don't be foolish. I do stupid things so you don't have to. And half the shit I found, I wasn't even willing to click on because it was triggering my tool set in a way that I was too scared to see what was on the other end. So do not be a brave fool and follow these links, okay? Just please don't do it. Laugh about it, be entertained, but don't be a brave dumbass. The third disclaimer, the field observations I'm going to show you are real as of this morning. You can find these in Google. They are real. Google is rolling out updates, so a few days from now, things might be different. The examples might be different. We are going to discuss theories in this episode. None of the theories are proven. All right. We're talking about possibilities here. So nothing's proven, but the field observations are 100% real. When we talk about spam, we are talking about how it's generally defined in the guidelines formerly known as Webmaster. Okay, so got all that out of the way. All right, so people are talking about the web spam update. They're saying things like, I'm 70% down on traffic. It's genuinely terrifying. I lost 90% of my traffic. White hat site, no black hat method used. My website was hit very badly, almost 90% traffic dropped. 50K daily to 2K. Well done, Google. Since last Friday, a massive drop in a travel niche website, 200K impressions to 100K, 0 AI generated content, 0 spammy backlinks. And, you know, kind of the response out of Google, it's a spam update. If you've been making spam, maybe don't make spam. All right. So that's what they're saying about all this. But is it really a spam update? Like, can anyone demonstrate some evidence of some spam that used to be there but is now gone? Like, do they have an archive of Cora reports that shows a class of spam has vanished from before and after the update? Because we have these evidence records. Can you show in one of these evidence records that a certain type of spam went away? You know, I'm genuinely interested. We've done this before in the show where we've made a call out saying, if you have evidence of a thing, we'd like to see it. And so this is another case where if you have genuine, compelling evidence of a thing, we'd like to see it. Because I'm going to give you some evidence of the thing, and I think you're going to like to see it. And so I think that should be bilateral. And so I'm putting that out there. If you have evidence of a thing, I'd like to see. What do you think of our topic so far, Clint?
I was thinking as you were going through that and showing this, do you notice that all these people who ever complain never share their website? I mean, if it's so white hat and it's so not spam, how come they don't share their website and go, see, look how good my site is. Why am I not doing good? They all just cry about this. So,
well,
and then the other end of that, I mean, I've never had a website taking 90% loss in traffic. So I would really like to see how good or bad that website is.
Yeah, and I'd wager that most of these websites are A, kind of newer sites, B, they're kind of lower quality sites, C, they're aspiring to be, information sites or aspiring to be legitimate businesses, but haven't quite pulled it off.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make them spam. That makes them struggling businesses, but that doesn't make them the worst of the worst on the web.
What I also like is the word spam. I mean, we all have our own definitions of it. You build something, I build something, Lee builds something. One of us is going to call the other stuff spam. So, I mean, like the one example right there, I was 20K impressions per a day to 100K, zero content, zero backlinks, and other websites that I consider to be spammy got even better positions. Just because we consider a website to be spammy doesn't mean the algorithm's trained for that to be spammy.
Yeah, I make that joke all the time. My website is white hat, awesome content, and your website is filthy spam. And as long as we can all agree on that, the system works. I mean, that's how the game is played, right? But
I think at the end of the day, I think the conversations like what you're displaying on the kind of, it's like Mew's right. He's calling it spam. But if you make trash and the trash is that susceptible to a core algorithm update, then the site's probably trash. And you need to go back and figure out what you're doing wrong.
But what I want to do today is I want to kind of reframe the argument. I want to kind of look at it from a different angle. You look like you want to say something, Lee.
I'm saying, I look at this in a little bit of a different way because, as human beings, we're driven to make connections. And one of the ways that we are biased is recency. So if I got hit something today and yesterday Google announced a spam update, well, it's the spam update that caused my problem today. That's kind of one of the ways that we're hardwired. But these sort of little examples that you have here, I see these examples occurring every single day in SEO groups. There's not, the big spam updates and other things every single day. I see these unexplained drops and something's going on. Does anybody else know what's going on? So, part of me looks at this and goes, is it the spam update or is it any update? Is it just, that Google got around and now has reevaluated your site based on some other, criteria or something else? Did you lose links? Did your site get hacked? I mean, there's a lot of different explanations for why this goes down, but people always assume, oh, Google's hitting a spam update, we got hit, or Google announced a helpful content update and we got hit. I don't understand this because our content is very helpful. So that's kind of the framework that I'm looking at. I understand where Clint came from it, looking at the definition of spam, but I'm looking at it like connecting the drop to a cause here.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And so, being me, I thought, the first thing I should do is let's do a search. Let's see if we can find some spam. Why not? So a spam update just happened. It should be harder to find spam. All right. So first keyword I tried, I found what we call the .it network. This particular type of spam, we kind of know what to look for to see these. In the Google cache, we've seen these date back to 2015. These aren't new. These have been around the block for quite a while. The crazy thing about these is they span tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of domains. At one point in time, we were using statistical measures to sample Google search results to try to figure out how big this network was. And our sampling was suggesting it was somewhere between 5 and 15% of all search results in Google's primary index were from this network. That is lesser as of late, not because of the web spam update, but because Google made the primary index smaller. So if you remember, Google used to have 1,000 results per keyword. Now they're down to around 168 results per keyword. And as a result, a lot of these fell out. But they're still alive and well today. And the methods they're employing, according to the guidelines formerly known as Webmaster, keyword stuffing, stitched content, stolen content, cloaking, sneaky redirects, misleading users. So I'm searching for DUI lawyer and I'm just clicking this same result over and over again, and I'm getting different pages back every time. So one is doing notification spam. The next one is downloading viral and adware payloads. The third one is sending me to adult affiliate destinations. And so, you know, this stuff has been around for years and is massive in the primary index, and it's still alive today. And so this is an example of something that is, you know, long-standing, very obvious, breaking all the rules in a single example. And you know, we've even reported on it in the past. It's actually been in the news, like people were talking about it. There were stories on Search Engine Roundtable when this network misfired and all the titles, all the links had the same text. Like that was, this network had a bug and that's what caused that story. You know, it's incredible and it's still alive and well. Like it's still in the primary index. And what's so crazy about it is the index over these years that this thing has been alive and well, the index went from 1,000 results per keyword to 168 results per keyword. And this stuff is still making the cut. And so that's remarkable, you know, so that was the first keyword I tried and instantly got a hit. But it, you know, I did know what to look for, and this particular network is afflicting damn near all keywords. So it's like, that's how big this thing is. It's and you'll see some of that later.
Yeah, I want to just point out here, because this is one that is something that I think that people just, it's staring them, but they don't really see it, which is Google can't catch this. Right now, this is working in all of these different ways: keyword stuffing, the stitched content, the stolen content, cloaking, sneaky redirects, misleading users. All of that crap is there. It has been there for years. It's not going anywhere. It's got a clear footprint because we can find it on damn near every keyword. This is how the algorithm is working. It is not catching any of these things at this time. I think people don't realize, you know, when they look at how smart Google is and the algorithm is so advanced, I'm like, simple sites like this rank, they get indexed, they're spammy as hell, they violate every single rule in the book just about, and Google's not catching them. And the algorithm is not catching them. And
so if I were one of the people on the previous page who lost, you know, 50, 70, 90% of traffic, I'd be saying, why am I, as an arguably low quality, you know, starter noob website, being ejected, but this gets allowed to stay? You know, that's the problem, is that there's no accountability for the stuff that's flagrant that's being allowed to stay. And so that's a big problem because it causes trust issues. And so yeah, this hasn't been dealt with for years, you know, and if Google was so good at it, why isn't this fixed by now?
You have a question. What page are these spam sites ranking?
Very low. Sometimes they rank well, but in general, very low. And the main thing that I want to kind of focus at is like, what's the minimum bar to play the game? Because I'm kind of like looking at the situation of who gets to compete for free search traffic, whether they do it well or not, versus who doesn't get to compete. And these guys are allowed to compete while, you know, people who are aspiring, you know, albeit lower quality ventures are not allowed. And so I see a difference in what's being ejected and what's being allowed to stay, what is, you know, arguably just, you know, kind of lower quality versus what is a flagrant violation of web spam. And so this is bringing up more questions and conflict for me. And so I want to dig deeper into more examples. You look like you have something you want to say, Clint.
Well, I was looking through the source code of one of those .it sites, and you look at the cache version that Google's got, and it's clearly a keyword density play.
Yeah,
right? I don't know if you've looked at them before, but in the text that Google is getting served, it's clearly keyword density.
If you source that text, it's sentences pulled from like 20 or 30 different web pages.
Yeah.
They're stitching from different sites.
And there's no order, and there's random stuff like if someone had the menu with Facebook or whatever, that's in there, and it's
not human readable. It's
it is straight pure trash, but it is stupid high in keyword density. So, I mean, is that an indicator where everyone, when they ended the keywords meta tag, and then everyone started saying keyword density, and then the keyword density got really low, so ergo the spammy sites were kicking in. I mean, you know, the sites where people were just still doing that keyword density stuff. It could be a backlash to that, and it's not a backlash because of the algorithm. It's a backlash because everyone and their brother said, "Hey, don't worry about keywords. Just write your content naturally, and people will come and fly, and unicorns will fly out of your ass." Versus thinking about doing the math and doing the keyword density and looking at that. I mean, these guys, to me, I don't really care that they're here. I want to know why they're here. And just looking at this stuff in here, I mean, I can't pull the rest of it, like what's causing the redirects and all that stuff. But just looking at the content alone on the two sites that are ranking for Chicago DUI lawyer, it's clearly a keyword density play.
Well, you know, with testing, I've got a lot of just absolute trash pages out there that are ranking for legitimate keywords like Chicago DUI lawyer. That's not one of them, but you know, and I look to see how long they're still alive. Every time they announce a spam update, I'm like, okay, am I still ranking? Am I still ranking? You know, yeah. So they're not targeting. I know certain things that they're not targeting, and you know, this is a good example of one of them. You know, it is straight keyword stuffing, you know, and all of these other things that Ted has on the slide.
And it's also just another good example that Google can't read. I mean, if Google could read and understand context and know what high quality content is, to Ted's point, these should not be in the search results at all.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the thing I want to call out here is that these go back like 7 years at least. And so Google hasn't fixed it by now, you know, and so that's a characteristic that's important. And we've seen it elsewhere too. So I'm going to go to the next example. A more popular one in our particular corner. So this image came from the Search Engine Journal article on Kyle Roof's rhinoplasty plano experiment, where Kyle Roof tuned a lorem ipsum boilerplate page for the relevancy math to rank for rhinoplasty plano. And he ultimately made it to number 2 for the keyword. And the article shows the proof of that ranking. When Google saw the article, they punished the page and they punished all of Kyle's clients that were unrelated to the page, and they updated the guidelines formerly known as Webmaster. And they went on to, just, be awful in that way. But the thing they never did was fix it in search. And the experiment has been repeated for different keywords and different locations. And so the one on the right, I'm obviously hiding because we know how Google responds. It's not mine. It's not Kyle's, but it's a very high CPC niche in a California city. That's the clue. And it ranks number 1 and 2 using the exact same methodology. Google never fixed the issue. All they did was try to make an example of Kyle and change a rule. That's how they tried to address the problem. They tried to instill enough fear in people that people wouldn't attempt it. That's how they tried to fix the problem. They didn't try to fix it in search. And as a result, today, the methodology of relevancy tuning Latin text, it still works just as well as it ever did. And so that's very lazy problem solving. And so it kind of speaks to Google's mentality on how it addresses these types of things. And so I think what we're seeing here is the 500-pound gorilla. They're not agile. They cannot move quickly. Fixing things is very cost prohibitive. It doesn't add to shareholder value. And so if it can be avoided at all costs, they're going to avoid it at all costs. And so this is, in my mind, this is a window into the thinking of that business unit. Because if they were going to fix it, they would have fixed it, right? The first rule of engineering is you see a problem, you fix a problem, because even little problems compound upon each other. This isn't engineering, this is avoidance.
Yeah, because in this particular case, these are lorem ipsum pages. They're not cloaking, they're not hiding. If you look at the meta descriptions, they're lorem. And if you click on the page, 90% of the content is lorem ipsum. And it's not like that's hard to detect or calculate. If the threshold of the page, if it's more than X% lorem, don't index it. That's not a hard engineering problem to solve. But they haven't, because here it is. And there's a lot of these that still rank in the top spots.
And so, we're starting to see a pattern here. So if the web spam update isn't fixing obvious, flagrant, very basic, fundamental web spam, what the fuck is in a web spam update? What is it? That's a real mystery if it can't handle the most basic, obvious examples that Google even already knows of and has documentation for and against. That's that's making this whole concept of there was a web spam update really confusing to people, because what the hell was in it?
Mhm.
All right. So that brings us to my final warning. All right. We're going to show you the search results for Seattle Plumber, Diamond Engagement Ring, Ice Cream Cone, John Mueller, Big Bird, trampolines, how to train a puppy. So basically the filthiest, smuttiest trash you can possibly imagine, because it came from Google.
Mhm.
So this is your last chance to click away and avoid big monitor humiliation in your workplace. So, all right, you've been warned. So I started thinking, what does it actually take to rank after Google's web spam update? So I'm looking for the minimum bar. What do we need to aspire to be better than, to be included in the primary index, to be able to compete for search traffic? I want to find out what's the minimum bar to play the game. And so what do we have to be better than to do this thing we call SEO? So for Seattle Plumber, you need to be strip chatter better. So this was a .it network one. So again, they're in all keywords. So I'm not surprised this came up. This was one of their adult payload random occurrences. For diamond engagement
Hold on,
rings,
back up just a second. Which is interesting, because now in this particular case, we know because the .it network will show you content maybe for Seattle Plumber so that it ranks, but it uses the sneaky redirects and other things to deliver, other payloads here. But that's not the case in some of your upcoming examples. So here you might sit there and say, well, is it really strip chat that you're competing against, or is it the underlying .it keyword stuffed page? So just keep that in mind as we move forward through, some of the other examples that you've got here.
yeah, and I think all of them at some point have a sneaky context that was hidden away somewhere.
Yeah.
So for diamond engagement rings, you need to be a Bing search for home gyms or better. That was an actual Google result for diamond engagement ring.
Wow.
That one cracked me up when I saw it. It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, but whoever did it, kudos.
Relevance, baby. It's all about relevance.
Yep. Ice cream cone, I'm not even sure what to call this one. But yeah, you need to be this or better to rank for ice cream cone. Good job, Google.
Millennial porn.
The keyword John Mueller, this keyword and several John Mueller keywords shocked me at how many of them trigger safe search for being unsafe pages. John Mueller SEO, John Mueller backlinks, John Mueller local SEO. A lot of the pages there have very nasty things on them. I don't recommend exploring the worst of John Mueller's brand. If you're watching this, John, go check out your name. There's some bad stuff happening there. Big Bird. Come on, Google, you're better than this. I mean, seriously. Fucking Big Bird. Trampolines. Bam, you need to be a Bing search for monitor risers. So they came back in a different keyword.
Wow.
I mean, I don't feel like this is like the rocket science of spam. Like, I think these are things that Google ought to be able to spot. Like, if I can find all this shit in an hour and they have people whose job it is full time, like, this should not be news to them.
Mm-hmm.
How to train a puppy. Apparently, you need to be a gambling site or better.
Wow.
Cool masks.
So, all those people, we can sit there and judge them and say, well, your website, you probably keyword stuffed, or your website is low quality, but I'd be willing to bet it's better than the shit that Google's letting in the door. So the question is, why are all of them being hit and these guys are allowed to compete? That doesn't seem right. So if Google can't fix the obvious spam, then why should anyone assume they are more competent with the difficult spam? Why should we assume that they can do we have AI that can look at the various subject predicate agreement and the grammar and figure out if you're actually doing first person objective speaking on the topic, and if you made a good point in paragraph 2? Why should we assume that level of like cognitive ability and spam detection when they can't like find a big schwanz for the keyword big bird? They're
I'm just curious, Clint, did you know that big bird porn was a thing? I didn't until I saw these slides.
I think Clint is speechless.
I mean, I've been in a lot of niches and I've seen some stuff. You're like, why would you do that? Like, what are you into, you freak? You know what I mean? So
Clint went to
does
college.
it totally surprise me? Not really, but I mean, still, you're like, some of the stuff you sit in wonderment. Put it that way, wonderment.
So after years and years and years, this stuff gets fixed. After spam update, after spam update, after spam update, none of this stuff gets addressed. And the next spam update will come and it still won't get fixed. And so I start to see like these 3 possibilities. A, Google didn't look, which would be terrible. They don't care. They're not looking, don't care, whatever. Maybe they'll come out and say, oh, we did look, we just didn't act, which is kind of worse in my opinion. And then there's option 3, they did act, but they weren't capable to enact change, which is a damaging confession to the brand, which they would never do. And so, I don't envy the seat they're in. That's kind of a difficult seat. But I keep thinking about that going, it still doesn't quite add up. Like, I still see what's in search and I hear the stories from people and I see the definition of spam. And why don't these things connect and make sense? And I have one more possibility, which is a theory, but it kind of makes it all come together and make sense and explain everything. Now it's unproven. I can't prove it, but damn, does it ever give me chills and explain everything in a nice, neat package. What if Google's definition of spam is different than ours, and even different than what they put in the guidelines formerly known as Webmaster? What if what they're actually doing is just going through, their data and just deciding who can openly compete for traffic and who needs to pay on like a keyword page basis, going, no, these ones should buy, and yeah, these ones can pay. Because then at that point, spam would continue to pass through as defined by spam. It would never get addressed. And semi-legitimate sites would see their traffic and pages get hit and go down and go, what the fuck, you know? And they'd be semi-legitimate even, and it would constantly be this cycle, and there would be motivation for it to work that way, obviously. I mean, what if a web spam update was just deciding who has to pay? I don't know that it's that way, but damn, it does kind of wrap it all up together nice and neat. Because you know what Google really needs to do if they want us to have confidence in these updates is they should give us some examples of the spam they've fixed, some examples of the spam they've eliminated. Because you know, the rest of us, we're not seeing it. We're looking for it, but we're not seeing it. And so if they are doing good, you know, just announcing that they're blindly doing these updates and there's a ton of collateral damage with them, we're not seeing the good. We're just feeling the collateral damage and seeing the spam that we've always seen for years and years and years continue to go unfixed. Thoughts?
You know, I have one other possible explanation, and it's actually something that I learned listening to you, Ted, over the years talk about. You know, there are certain things that are technologically possible, but they're unfeasible. They're prohibitively expensive to do at scale. You know, so yes, there are some great technology for reading and understanding a page, and you know, it's content and subject verb agreements and all of those sort of, you know, quality measures. But you know, doing that over trillions of pages is just too damn expensive, you know, for the game. So what if Google simply doesn't care about spam? You know, it's not a big enough problem at the top of the search results for
Then
them.
what's in a spam update?
Well, then, you know, then you look at it and say, okay, so why do they keep saying all of this stuff? Because, you know, from a social engineering standpoint, if you put this stuff out there and people say, well, you know, my site was hit, well, it is a spam update. If you're spamming, you should stop. They're just letting people self-correct rather than, you know, Google having to do anything. You know, so now everybody's afraid to keyword stuff because you'll go to Google hell.
Well, yeah, and that's the funny thing. If the game in like spam updates is Google is just, you know, making passes of who has to pay, they can play a side game of, you know, people are saying, you know, oh, I was doing some spammy things. I was, you know, keyword stuffing or doing link building or using AI content. And then Google is going to say, oh, yeah, well, maybe you should stop doing those things. You know, they could be unrelated to actually what's in these web spam updates. And so I'm genuinely interested if there's any, you know, real evidence as to what might have changed as a result of these web spam updates in terms of fixing spam.
Yeah, well,
I think it's backlinks. And the reason I say that is you look at that .it network, and if you look at the source code, you can see the internal linking and the external linking. So they're interlinking that entire network.
Yep.
And so they all have referring backlinks, and everyone is really scared to build backlinks now. They only want to do outreach. Even the biggest agencies charging the most money, they're sending like 4 to 6 backlinks to a website a month. And so if you look at, I want to clean up the search results. Ergo, I want to eliminate as much as like garbage as I can. The easiest thing to do is go, does that page have backlinks? And if the answer is no, then we're going to take it out.
Google should rebrand the update then. They should call it the spammy backlink update.
Well, they're not going to tell you that, because what will happen is that everyone will go out and start building backlinks again.
Exactly. But we also know that we all have pages out there that are built for different reasons that are, I've got some that are a little spammy, some that are a lot spammy, and some that have absolutely no redeeming value whatsoever, but they rank. And so every time Google announces a spam update, I'm looking, it's like, are they attacking, this? Are they attacking cloaking? Are they attacking gibberish? Are they attacking it? What is it? And I don't see any movement. So I'm like, okay, well, stuff still works, and it still works day after day. So, the fact that a lot of these pieces go back to 2015, they're not new. It's not a new sneaky, stealthy attack that isn't known.
Well, I like Clint's theory because that also wraps it up in a nice, neat wrapper.
Yes.
But it also makes the guidelines formerly known as webmaster complete bullshit, because then all web spam is backlinks.
Well, if you've ever read those things, they're complete bullshit anyway.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to buy stereo instructions, there you go. Those would be just as helpful. Nobody knows the reference because everyone's too young.
Yep.
They're like, what's a stereo?
Yep.
All right, let me see if we have YouTube questions.
I'm not answering that one from Alex. You can save your time.
Well, I'll say this much, Alex. I made a career out of using exact match anchors, and I know a lot of SEOs preach against using too much of it, and so there's some truth to that. When I got away with it, it was with a very high authority website. And so I think that context matters, and the more authority you have, kind of the more stuff you can get away with. So it's gonna be situational about your resources as to what you can pull off.
I will say the reason I don't want to answer it is because I'm not going to tell you what I do. So if I'm not going to tell you what I do, then I don't know what's going to work in your market. So you got to go out and test that and figure that stuff out for yourself.
Yeah, test small, do some test pages in unimportant areas and figure out what works. Yeah. Ted, one way to see what the spam update all about is to do Cora before and after and what factors have changed. Well, I'd actually be more interested if people found examples of spammy URLs falling out of the result sheets in the Cora reports, because that would actually give us reference examples of spammy URLs. We can look at what was on our page. We could classify them. We could find more examples, see what happened to them. But yeah, there probably are ways to use archives of Cora reports to try to do this. And there's probably somebody out there who works in a very spammy niche who is in a position to point out something that may have changed. And it might also be that evidence doesn't exist because the web spam update was about backlinks or about who has to pay, in which case none of those things would have changed much. Mm-hmm. Could this update be the update they've done the last 3 years to hammer on small businesses for Q4? It's possible.
Remember?
But we can't prove it. But if you think about it, if they do back-to-back, chaotic things between now and December 26th, and what else are you gonna do other than buy some ads?
That's November. You can see that clearly if you go into the search results after that November, early December update comes. You'll see it instantly. You won't even have to question if that's it or not. You'd be like, there it is. Yeah.
From what I can tell, Cora is not too concerned about word count. I have optimized with Surfer and it says to remove words, but Cora never does that. Well, here's the thing. When you prune content off the page, if you kind of do that blindly, what you're actually doing is randomly affecting keyword density. And it turns out when I get accounts about how pruning content works for people, tends to be about 50-50. People say, oh, it works great. Oh, it tanked my page. Oh, it made me go up. Well, if you're randomly adjusting keyword density, you would expect it to go up or down about half the time. So if you are going to prune words from the page, try to make sure that they're not words that use your variations and exact match and entities and LSI. If you get the meaningless words off the page, then you're probably going to go up. But yeah, I generally don't recommend detuning a page because something that has a success rate of 50% is terrible and is generally the last thing you should ever do to your page. I won't say never do it, just don't do it first. It's terrible.
I would kind of add on to that. If you're going to do it, you need to go back and just re-optimize it. So service says delete 1,200 keywords, and you want to test to see if it's right, then delete the 1,200 words, but go back in there and compare before and after density, and then re-optimize all those entities and all that stuff that the tool is giving you. And I mean, I would argue you're probably going to increase the keyword density more than you'll delete it if you follow that process, and then you'll see your rankings go up. So there's two ways to handle that. And Ted's way, I kind of lean towards, I'm not listening to your tool. I don't care if you say I need 5,000 words or 500. I'm going to do what I works, right? But at the end of the day, I would always lean towards what Ted's saying. Like, I'm not deleting words. I'm going to optimize this content better.
Yeah, and to the second point, like people get hung up on the number, like, a 10,000 word page, or, adding 50,000 backlinks is bad, or a 4% keyword density is bad. And, in general, we can always find examples in the #1 spot on Google that kind of surpass whatever you think the over optimization limit is. It's usually not that hard to find those outliers. And so it's really not about the number. Like 50,000 links isn't bad. There are many websites that have a lot more than 50,000 links and they do just fine. And there are skyscraper web pages that have over 30 feet of linear scrolling on desktop and they do just fine. And so there's a lot of different ways to rank a page. And so I'd be skeptical if anyone is ever telling you that an exact number is a bad thing to do, because I don't think that if they're giving you that kind of advice that they have a good grasp of how the system as a whole is functioning. And usually what I find is that if you've pushed something too far in one area, you've run afoul of diversity in most cases, and you generally need to diversify your ranking signals. And so if your gut reaction is to detune, I need to disavow the links, I need to do link removals, I need to cut away my content, I need to delete all my pages. And, we as SEOs, thank you, you make our job quite easy. But usually that's the wrong thing to do. Normally, what you need to do is diversify in other areas and think of the ranking signal levers you haven't been pulling and address those first. And what I typically tell people is you want to go wide in ranking signals before you go deep in any one. And so, I would recommend taking a look at that before you do anything drastic to your site.
Yeah, I'm going to go a different direction here. I'm going to introduce a concept to the marketplace here. Concept is that all tools fail. I came up with that one all on my own. I stole that one from Ted. The thing is, all tools, whether you're looking at ChorusSurf or any other tool out there, they have a methodology behind them, and the methodology, seems to work. So, Surfer might be looking at an average of page one and trying to make you look like that, whereas, in Quora, you might be looking at, who's got the most and tuning that way. And all of those methodologies can work and all of them can fail. The question is that you have to understand the methodology well enough to know when to break the damn rules. And that requires, analysis, testing, and everything else. You cannot just blindly follow any tool. I love Quora, but you can't just blindly follow. You have to understand the underlying data and what's going on there to make decisions about whether I should pull back on some things or whether I should add some other things. So the first thing I would tell people is get to know your tool and understand where those damn limits are. Because if you don't understand where those limits are, then you're just flying blind, with putting your comfort in, the output of a particular tool, regardless of what tool that is. So
It's called Take the Wheel SEO. As in Jesus Take the Wheel SEO.
Yep. So
Jesus take the wheel.
But did you know that all tools fail, Ted?
Yeah, they all do. Every tool has, failure states. And so scale ruins everything. That's another engineering statement. Another interesting one is, the platform SEOs, they only work because everyone believes no one will lie to them. You can lie to the platforms.
That is true.
There's no reason you have to give them the right data for your pages.
Also, full disclosure, in case people don't know, Ted has spoken multiple times in multiple conferences about tools failing. So that's not something I brought. That's just copying some things that Ted has educated the SEO community on. So.
And, engineers have known for decades that tools fail. So that's not something I invented either.
Ted, you said that you can give tools a different representation of your website than you give Google. How would you do that?
I'm thinking about whether or not I'm going to show that at SEO spring training. And so I'm debating whether or not that's an appropriate thing to share there. And
is that because it's a black hat technique or what?
Well, it's arguably.
I was just fucking with you. You don't have to respond. Mohammed and I are laughing at you right now.
Honey's over here screaming no. She's off camera over here going no.
Well, the thing is, lots of tools can be used for good and evil. It's not the tool, right? A hammer can be a murder weapon. It can build a house. So we're classifying technologies as evil, and that's not necessarily the right way to go about it.
And or.
Yep.
All right, so Clint, basically what's going to happen is at SEO Rockstars next month, I'm going to get Ted drunk and have him sign a non-disclosure.
Well, I'm thinking about teaching my method at spring training. So if that's okay with the people who run that conference, I might just teach everyone how I do it my way there.
I think Terry have no problem with that. And if he does, I'll just lock him in the room until you're done, because I'm the one who's emceeing that conference. So,
So So that's my plan. If you want to know how I do stealth SEO, then go to SEO Spring Training. I will disclaimer it. I don't think Google will like it. I don't think you should use it on client websites. I don't think you should do it on employer websites. But if you have your own website and you're okay with the risks, then that's all on you. I'm gonna disclaimer the hell out of it left and right and make you sign a disclaimer. But I'll show you how it works.
Yeah, and I'll say, even with all those disclaimers and all that stuff that Ted's mentioned, it's really, like he pointed out, we had a private discussion. That's why I brought it up, because he said he wasn't going to mention it, and then when the joke came on. But at the end of the day, it really is about intent. So if you're using this to get your competitors off your scent, then knock yourself out. I say go for it to all extent as possible. And if you're using it to make a whole lot of money in affiliate over for launch jacking, I say go for it. Knock yourself out. It's a game, and if you're not cheating, you're not trying. It's kind of how I look at it. So I'd be interested into, I don't know if I can wait as long as spring training. So rock stars, I'm probably going to have to get him drunk so I can get the 411 and start early.
Yeah, the stuff might happen at the bar at rock stars.
Yeah. We're going to be at cross purposes. I'm going to get him to sign non-disclosures. You're going to try to spill it and get him to spill it before the non-disclosure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can sign the non-disclosures after he shows me what he's doing, and then I'm cool.
But I'm the more I understand stealth SEO, the more I'm getting comfortable with sharing it with responsible people. And the thing I've come to learn about stealth SEO is that the intent part matters a lot. So if you are hell-bent on never misleading the searcher, so you have a website about cats, you're going to show them a page about cats, and they're going to love the content you have about cats, I think that everything's probably kosher, at least as kosher as all the other SEO in the world, because you're being completely 100% transparent to Google, like Google sees and knows all, and you're not misleading the searcher. And so in that context, I think stealth SEO is merely cutting out the SEO tools and the competitors from stealing your moves and driving up the keyword density arms race. And I doubt Google gives a shit that you're not wanting to play that game. Like, I don't think Google has an investment in that fight. So as long as your intent is good and you're not lying or misleading, you're trying to do quality.
When I try to put my clothes on,
I think that's the thing. So with that, I'm more open to sharing.
Related to that, Clint, spring training, is it recorded?
No.
Is it online?
No.
You have to be there in person.
Yeah.
All righty. Just letting people know.
Yeah, he's never done that. Rockstars, that is typically she records it and then sells the recordings. I don't know if she's going to do that this year. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm not speaking about stealth SEO at Rockstars. I might talk about it at the bar, but it's not my topic for presentation.
Yeah, but spring training, he's never recorded it and sold the. Well, I won't say never. He did when we had to pivot. When he had to pivot from COVID and go into a full virtual, then he gave the recordings to IMG. I think is who has those now.
All right. Well, with that, I think we have a show. Let me see if there's any last minute questions here. Let's see. If I have a navigation link, is it okay to have the same link in the content with the same anchor? Should it be different? Am I also testing to and content links with the variation of anchor text. I think Google is deduping on the URL. So if the URL is the same, it's going to use the first incarnation on the page. So you would have to somehow make the URLs different if you wanted to pull that off. And they might get deduped again at canonicalization.
I think that's definitely something to test, because I had not seen that. Like, I am of the belief that would be true if it's in the content. You know what I mean? So if I reference the same URL 3 times, then that first one is going to be the one that they're going to do it. But there's still that theory is like old, like Rand Fishkin theory, like is the first instance kind of thing. And if it's in the menus, that's the first instance. So under that theory, all of your internal linking that's in content is mute. It's void, because it's not the first instance. You put it in your navigation. So I would go with, I would think you'd be fine putting it in the content and in the navigation. And if the anchors are the same, it's okay.
Yeah, and my reference was based on things Google has said, and things Google has said definitely need to be tested.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see what's next here. Awesome show. Any good WooCommerce SEO plugin? Not that I know of, because I don't do a lot of WordPress these days. So maybe hop into one of the SEO communities and you'll probably find 1,000 people to answer that one. Hey, Clint, are you still doing the link exchange service on Digital Ear? That sounds like a loaded question.
No, that was was it Blackwood Productions? It was Reciprocal Linking Network. The links in there just proved to be, I mean, there was of some value if you knew what to do with them, but I was always fighting with those clowns to fix common SEO things. So I just stopped promoting it.
Yeah, don't use link schemes.
Yeah, they're bad. And it was all technical stuff, right? So I mean that concept still works, I think. It's just that their back end was not conducive to it was not conducive to my style of SEO and the expected standard that I wanted out of that network. My site was meeting them all, and every other site in there was not required to, or was not allowed to, because of the way the plugin was deploying the backlinks. So I pulled it.
Yeah, I'm always too skittish for networks. I tend to like to have links I control first and foremost, and then sometimes I'll dabble a little bit in press releases. And then anything beyond that, I get too nervous because Google has me scared. I gotta get more brave.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you. But I look at the deployment of the network. I mean, when those first became like stupid popular, was the simple sidebar backlinks that are rotating to the networks, and then it was obvious what people were doing, right? And those got roasted quick. Some PBN networks get roasted quick just because of the way that they're sold and promoted, and just willy-nilly giving out reports to everybody. So yeah, I'm with you. If you're going to join a network, make sure it's a network with people that have some common sense. Let's put it that way.
All right, we shall leave it there. Thank you, everyone. And just a reminder, nothing we talked about today is proven. The examples were very much real. please don't click on the spam. If you're gonna do that, please be an expert, have antivirus, have lots of off-system backups, and don't be in a position to infect your family, friends, and coworkers and clients. That would make you look really, really bad. It's probably best if you don't follow any of the links and stuff we showed on the show today. So I strongly advise against it. All right.